Alright, I know you're probably thinking the last thing I need is another project. I have so many things on the go, but sometimes things come up and you just can't pass them up. So I ended up picking this thing up from a buddy of mine, and it is an 82 shovel. So it's got the latest style cowpie transmission, rotary top, turbine head, whatever you want to call it. It's got the latest style 4-speed transmission. Still has the shovel head. This will be an 80 cube. Obviously this thing has seen better days. This thing looks freaking terrible. You know, it looks like it's been underwater. I'm going to call this thing the swamp shovel because that's where it looks like it's come from. The frame is pretty well on the edge of being usable. The gearbox looks like it's been underwater, but it turns over freely, really nicely. The engine's the same. It looks like it's been underwater. You know, it looks like I've got it out of Davy Jones' locker, but this thing turns over fine. It looks absolutely terrible, and I thought this would be a good project to do on the channel because, you know, you might come across this thing in someone's, you know, backyard or, you know, someone's barn or whatever you guys might be cruising around in, and you might think this thing is a bit far gone and you might leave it behind. But I want to show you in this series that this stuff is savable still. You know, the stuff in this condition is still good shit. Don't leave it behind. And, you know, when it looks like this, you get a freaking good deal for it too, you know. You get to really lowball someone, you know, and not that I did this to you, Brody. I think you ripped me off. The guy I bought this off, I think he bought like a storage unit or something, and this was in it. This was on the Sunshine Coast of Australia, and right near the beach. This stuff gets super corroded. All the waves and everything from the beach just waft all the salt water all through the first 20 kilometers of shoreline. So everything close to the sea over here ends up like this. It is just covered in surface rust and looks absolutely terrible. But to be honest with you, this thing has so much potential. Like, all I'm going to do with this thing, I think I'm going to turn this into a freaking chopper. So what I'm going to do, obviously, first thing you do with a chopper, you get rid of your swing arm. So I'm going to do a rigid rear section for this. Obviously going to fuck off pretty well everything. I will keep the wide glide though. Can't go wrong with a wide glide. Obviously all the nacelle, all the front guard, front wheel, all that shit's going to come off. I'll shave the lowers, I reckon. I'll do a nice 21. I have a juice rear for this thing, so we'll do a juice drum in the rear. I think we'll stick with the split tanks for this. I love a 3.5 gallon split tank, so I think we'll stick with a split tank, little sissy bar, and a nice king and queen on this thing. So, like I said, this is going to be probably a pretty multiple part series here. I'm going to completely go through the gearbox and rebuild it, start to finish. I'm going to blast all the cases and everything so this thing looks mint again. I'll be able to show you what you can do with something that looks so terrible. And the same goes for the engine. I'm going to completely rebuild this thing. I'm going to split the cases, split the flywheels, and just completely go through this thing top to bottom and get this thing looking schmick again. You know, it doesn't take much. The inside of this thing is probably mint. It's just the outside that looks like this. So please guys, if you guys are interested in seeing a in-depth series on this shovel as well as my other projects, please drop in the comments below. Tell me what you really want to see, what you want me to focus on, and what you want to see in the upcoming episodes. Obviously, I think where I'm going to start with this thing, I think I'm going to start with the frame. Then I can sort of get a roller going, and then I can play around with the engine and gearbox and all that crap. But to start with, I'm going to pull this thing completely apart, pull the gearbox out of it, pull all the wheels off it, chuck whatever in the bin that I don't want. If you're around the Brisbane area and you guys see something on this you want, hit me up. I'll be happy to sell it to you or just give it to you. I don't really care. The only things I really care about is the front end, frame, gearbox, and engine here. So you guys might as well come in a bit closer. Let's check out this engine a bit closer up. Alrighty, so this thing is pretty well your generic late model shovel. Nothing crazy special, but a heap of tiny little differences, and that is how you tell a late model cone shovel from an early model cone shovel. Just going through some of the little bits and pieces, an early shovel will have a different intake port. So a late model shovel just has your tube style seal, but an early style will have your O-ring. So there'll be a tiny little lip on the end of your intake runner, and that is to hold said O-ring. Another little difference is a late model shovel will have a bolt hole on both heads, where an early one will only have bolt holes on the front head. They also have a different chamfer. Once you've seen a couple, you can tell the difference just by the chamfer on your rocker boxes. Another sort of difference is in between your heads here, you can see they have fins in here. So an early style shovel will have risen fins, so that's another way you can tell. There is heaps of tiny little differences on how you tell apart a late and an early shovel. But anyway, I don't really care. Late shovels are better than early shovels. They are definitely built better. They have been improved over the years, and they are definitely the best running and riding shovel head. I say that, but generator shovels are really close to my heart. They are the best engine Harley ever made, but you cannot beat a Conan shovel on the highway. They fucking rip. Anyway, so as we said before, this thing looks like it's been underwater for a great period of time. Like, all the paint's chipping off the barrels, the heads are corroded like crazy. Look at the dust coming off them. You know, this thing has just been sitting around for ages now. And for some reason, the pushrod tubes have been open while it's sitting around. So the pushrods have started to get a bit rusty. God knows why that was done, but all the internal shit is there. It all seems to be there. I don't know if something's gone wrong and that's why this bike has been parked. Maybe someone was trying to do maintenance. Maybe someone has tried to get this thing going before and they just didn't get there. Who knows? But that is the reason why I want to completely tear this thing apart. I want to split the cases, split the flywheels, like I said, pull this thing completely apart and go completely through it. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep this chopper yet or sell it, so either way, if I completely go through it, I've got a fresh motor that I'm going to keep forever, or if I sell it, I'm going to get more money because I'm selling it as a completely rebuilt engine. So I'm going to, like I said, completely split this thing, go through the whole lot, do the heads, do the crank. I'm going to balance the whole lot and just, you know, put a good motor together. I probably won't get all this crust out of the chrome and make all this look perfect again, but I'm at least going to go through it and polish as much as I can and make it look as good as I can. I will paint the barrels and stuff again, see if I can polish some of this rust out of my lifter blocks. I don't want this thing to look like a piece of shit. You see all those fucking rat looking bikes that people, you know, make look old as shit. You need to earn that look, I believe. You need to build a nice shiny bike. That was the thing back in the 60s and 70s, how shiny and amazing your bike looked. And these days it's more like how fucking shit your bike looks and how amazing it is that that piece of shit runs. So I want to make sure this thing looks as nice as it can, but not go too crazy and replace a heap of parts. I want to use all the parts that are sitting here. I don't want to buy new chrome chest, new chrome this, new chrome that. I want it to retain all its original parts. So as I said, I think I'm going to start with the frame. So I'm going to put this engine to the side. This will be another video of me completely tearing this thing down. But for the remainder of this video, let's go through, and my buddy Joel has bent up a rear section for me for this frame. I just need some axle plates and we will knock this thing together. Alrighty, so I have ripped apart that roller. I pretty much threw everything I didn't want in the bin, like all the guards, all the rear section, you know, the stupid seat, all that crap. Threw it straight in the bin. Just kept everything I wanted for this chopper. So that's basically, I'm going to run the wide glide on it. The frame, obviously we're about to chop it up, but just that and a few other bits and pieces is literally all that I kept off this thing. So, as I mentioned earlier, I am getting a rear section that my buddy Joel has bent up, but it's not welded together. So the only thing I really need to get is axle plates for this thing, and then I can put together the rear section for it. But just to get ahead of the 8-ball, last little bit in this video, I'm going to go through, we're going to cut the rear section off this, get the frame prepped up, so when I get my axle plates, I can go in and we can just knock out a hardtail for this thing. So let's get chopping up. Alright, so while I'm at it, I want to cut off a few extra tabs they added in the later years so that it is going to be super hard to pick this frame. You know, I like to put together a chopper where you sort of aren't sure what year the frame is. You have taken off all the things that are telltale for later models, so everyone thinks it's early model. So basically what that entails is on these later shovel frames, you see it's got this weird little tab just here in front of the front engine mount. And that is for your electronic ignition. So all the late stuff ran an electronic ignition and they put it in the front there. So I'm going to hack that tab off. The other way you can tell, obviously these tabs are later stuff, like the early stuff's different. There's a few changes in this, but I'm not going to go that crazy. Just going to cut off the tabs that we can make look early. The other one is this guy. So on an early frame, it's just got this bottom piece here, and that's what holds the back of your oil bag. But on later stuff, they put this guy in here, and that holds your oil bag again, but this is for like a shoebox style, so like your later stuff, shoebox on this side and your big battery on this side. We don't want that. This is going to be a horseshoe with a little battery. It'll be kick only, so I don't have to worry about a big battery. So I'm going to come through, lop that off. This also has a mount, later model stuff does this too. It's got the mount here for your clutch cable to go in. Now I'm just going to leave that there because it's not going to be in the way. All my other stuff's going to work. I am going to do this foot clutch, but like I said, I want to build this in case I want to sell it or keep it. So I'm going to leave it there because maybe some square wants to buy this thing that can't ride a foot clutch or is too much of a pussy. So I'm going to leave that there and he can deal with it. So he can change it over if he really wants to. So let's go through. I'll cut these last bits off and then this thing is pretty well ready for the new section. So that is my frame pretty well all prepped up. I have it all ground down, sanded down nicely. So basically all I got to do when I get my axle plates is just clean up a little bit of these ends, cut my tubes to length, and then slap all this together. Now, like I said, I got to buy some cast axle plates for this thing. Being in Australia, they'll probably take me like a fucking week or two to get these from Lowbrow or something in the States. I'll pay an absolute arm and a leg for postage, but that's just what we do here in Australia. We get absolutely ripped off with our terrible exchange rate and insane shipping prices. So all said and done, I pretty well want the frame to look similar to my ugly green pan frame here. Same sort of styling. I want it to be pretty the same. Only thing that's going to be different is pretty well our crossover tube. I'm going to run a juice drum on this there, so I'm not going to need said crossover tube. So that's pretty well it for this video. Like I said, I will come back to the frame when I've got my axle plates and stuff, but in the next video I want to go through the engine. So I want to completely tear down the cone shovel, go completely through it, pull the flywheels apart, everything. I want to balance the bottom end and put the whole lot back together. So if you've got a tired cone shovel at home and you want to go through it, keep an eye out for the next video. It'll be a few part series. I'm not going to do it all in one video, but the next video will definitely be completely stripping it down. So stick around, look out for that one.